Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you a scary story about a cursed doll. This is a true story, and it's one that will stay with you long after you finish watching it. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a scare. The doll was old and weathered, with a porcelain face and faded hair. It was dressed in a tattered dress and held a teddy bear in its arms. But there was something unsettling about the doll's eyes. They were black and empty, like two bottomless pits. The doll had been found in the attic of an abandoned house. A group of teenagers had broken into the house, looking for thrills, and they had stumbled upon the doll in a dusty trunk. They had taken it with them, laughing and joking, but they soon regretted their decision. The doll was cursed. At first, the teenagers noticed strange things happening. The doll would move on its own, and its eyes would seem to follow them. They would hear whispers in the night, and they would wake up to find the doll in different places around the house. Then, the bad things started to happen. One of the teenagers, a boy named Jimmy, was found dead in his room. He had been strangled, and the doll was found lying next to his body. The other teenagers were terrified. They tried to get rid of the doll, but it always found its way back to them. They were trapped in a cycle of fear and despair. One by one, the teenagers were killed. The doll was always there, watching as they died. Finally, only one teenager was left, a girl named Sarah. Sarah was determined to break the curse. She had done some research, and she had learned that the only way to destroy the doll was to burn it in a fire. Sarah gathered all of her courage and confronted the doll. She picked it up and carried it to the fireplace. She struck a match and set the doll on fire. The doll screamed as it burned. Its eyes glowed red with anger, and its mouth twisted into a malevolent grin. But Sarah held on. She knew that she couldn't let go until the doll was completely destroyed. The doll writhed and spasmed in the flames. Its porcelain skin cracked and melted. Finally, the doll collapsed into a pile of ash. Sarah had broken the curse. Sarah watched the ashes of the doll burn in the fireplace, and she felt a sense of relief. The curse was finally broken. But as she turned to walk away, she heard a voice behind her. "You can't escape me," the voice said. "I will always be with you." Sarah turned around and saw the doll standing in the fireplace, its eyes glowing red. The doll smiled wickedly, and then it disappeared. Sarah screamed. She ran out of the house and into the night. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew that she had to get away from the doll. Sarah ran until she could run no more. She collapsed on the ground, exhausted and terrified. She didn't know what to do. She knew that the doll would be back. It would always be back. Sarah closed her eyes and tried to think. She needed to find a way to destroy the doll for good. But how? She remembered the research she had done. She had learned that cursed dolls are often possessed by malevolent spirits. And the only way to destroy a malevolent spirit is to perform an exorcism. Sarah knew that she didn't have the skills to perform an exorcism herself, but she knew someone who did. She knew a priest named Father John. Father John was a good man, and he was known for his ability to exorcise demons. Sarah got to her feet and started walking. She knew that she had to find Father John. She had to get his help. Sarah walked for hours. She finally reached Father John's church in the early hours of the morning. Sarah ran into the church and found Father John in his office. She burst through the door and collapsed at his feet. "Father John," she said, "you have to help me. The doll is back." Father John looked down at Sarah with concern. "What do you mean, the doll is back?" he asked. Sarah told Father John everything that had happened. She told him about the curse, the deaths of her friends, and the doll's return. Father John listened patiently. When Sarah was finished, he nodded. "I understand," he said. "The doll is possessed by a malevolent spirit, and the only way to destroy the doll is to perform an exorcism." Sarah looked up at Father John with hope in her eyes. "Can you help me?" she asked. Father John nodded. "Of course," he said. I will do everything I can to help you." Father John and Sarah spent the rest of the night preparing for the exorcism. They gathered the necessary supplies and prayed for strength. At dawn, they went to the house where Sarah had last seen the doll. They entered the house and made their way to the fireplace. The doll was standing in the fireplace, just as Sarah had seen it before. Its eyes were glowing red, and its mouth was twisted into a malevolent grin. "So," the doll said, "you think you can defeat me?" Father John stepped forward. "I do," he said. "In the name of God, I command you to leave this doll and go to hell." The doll laughed. "You cannot defeat me," it said. "I am too powerful." "We shall see," Father John said. Father John began to recite the exorcism rite. The doll screamed in anger as the holy words filled the air. The exorcism lasted for hours. Father John and Sarah fought against the doll's evil power, but they refused to give up. Finally, the doll screamed one last time and collapsed to the ground. It was dead. Father John and Sarah collapsed to their knees, exhausted but victorious. They had defeated the doll and destroyed the curse. Sarah looked at the doll's lifeless body and smiled. She was finally free. Sarah left the house and walked back to Father John's church. She knew that she would never forget the cursed doll, but she also knew that she was safe now. Father John had helped her to break the curse, and she was grateful. Sarah knew that she would always be on the lookout for evil, but she also knew that she was strong enough to face it. She had survived the cursed doll, and she would survive anything else that life threw her way. Well, that was the story of the cursed doll. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more scary stories. And remember, if you ever come across a cursed doll, don't touch it. Just walk away.